This is History Myths and Misconceptions, and today's misconception is Pyrrhic victory and incompetence. Everybody knows that Pyrrhic victory means a victory that came at too great a cost, a victory not really worth winning. Almost everybody also knows the origin of the phrase. It comes from the story of a general, or more precisely, a king, called, Pyrrhus, who fought with the Romans at the Battle of Asculum. And he prevailed. But he lost so many men that when someone tried to congratulate him, he answered that one more victory like this and I'll be out of soldiers. Everything is fine with the phrase. Everyone understands the meaning correctly. The misconception here is of another kind. While many people know the origins of the phrase and they heard of Pyrrhus, they somehow assume that his losses were incredibly heavy and Pyrrhus himself wasn't a good general. And that's not true. In fact, Pyrrhus of Epirus was considered one of the best generals of antiquity. Plutarch mentions that Hannibal rated Pyrrhus as the second greatest general ever, after Alexander. And now he's mostly remembered by one isolated episode in which he lost a sizable part of his army and was very disappointed with that. We don't really know how many people he actually lost, but it is believed that it was around 3,500, less than 10% of all of his army during his rather strange expedition to Italy. The problem actually was not the number, but the fact that he was in the foreign territory, and these losses were irreplaceable. Pyrrhus was almost incapable of losing a battle. The Romans figured out that they are on home ground and they can recruit more and more troops. So eventually they actually might wear the army of Epirus down and defeat Pyrrhus in a decisive clash. The Roman approach was essentially the illustration of the phrase "lose the battle, win the war." In many ways, they actually repeated the story 50 years later with Hannibal. The war against Pyrrhus lasted more than 5 years. Pyrrhus was running around the good half of the Italian peninsula and made excursions to Sicily. In the end, he decided that things just don't go his way and he packed his bags and left. 3 years later, he was killed in more or less a freak accident in Argos. In these 3 years, he actually became the king of Macedon, as an addition to being the king of Epirus. He had a very interesting life.